Hi, everyone. Thanks for signing on. Welcome to our webinar, Giving Tuesday Gives Advice for the Big Day. My name is Meredith Esquivel. I'm the marketing manager at Whole Whale and dean of Whole Whale University, which is our education arm. Whole Whale is a digital agency that leverages data and technology to increase the impact of nonprofits and social impact organizations. And as I said, Whole Whale U is our suite of courses and live trainings. I'm joined today by Giving Tuesday's Director of Digital Strategy, Kathleen Murphy, and Whole Whale's CEO and founder, George Weiner. Before we dive in, I'll just note that we are sending the recording and the deck over email after today, so keep an eye on your inboxes. And there will be time for a Q&A at the end, so leave your questions in the chat as they come up, and I'll queue them up for the end. So with that, I'll pass the mic over to Kathleen and George.
Thrilled to be here. I'm the chief whaler of Whole Whale, and I'd like to start before handing it over to our main guest, Kathleen, about some Giving Tuesday predictions. So what happened in 2018? Roughly 3.6 million gifts given, over 400 million totaled in donations around the day, and billions upon billions of social mentions. What we think will happen in 2019 is a 26% increase to over $500 million. We're really excited. We are seeing some early indicators that there are more folks than ever getting ready to participate. I do have to caveat that predictions are hard, especially when they are about the future. This is in no way coming from Giving Tuesday. This is a Whole Whale annual attempt to predict the future. So Kathleen,
thanks,
I'll hand it to you.
Can't wait to find out. So I'm Kathleen Murphy. I am the Director of Digital Strategy, and I'm the Assistant Director of Community Engagement on the Giving Tuesday Global team. Before coming to the Giving Tuesday team, I led my local community campaign here in Illinois, based outside of Chicago. And before that, I had a career in fundraising and politics. I connected a need with someone who cares. That matters to me. So I'm so thrilled to be with all of you today. Thanks again, George, for having me. Whether we like it or not, the big day is happening in 42 days. I'm going to talk a little bit about the evolution of Giving Tuesday because it's changed over the years. I want to share some things that we've learned over the past 7 years and talk a little bit about some ways that your nonprofit can be creative in the way that you participate in Giving Tuesday. So Giving Tuesday started as a day for anyone, anywhere to give, and it's grown into the largest giving movement of all time by reach. There's activity happening in literally every country and continent around the world. And by now you know the story. It started with a really simple idea. You have Black Friday and Cyber Monday. They're so hugely popular. The team thought, what about adding Giving Tuesday? Could you add a day that reversed the trend? After all this consumerism, could we create a day where people would give back? And it was novel in the way that they designed it. They designed it from the start in a way that we hoped people would grab the idea and take it somewhere new. It's always been a story about people. What really supercharged Giving Tuesday was small communities, families, people all around the country and around the world saying, I'm going to make this part of my annual tradition. And what was so interesting about Giving Tuesday as we watched it grow was from the very first days, it was always a story about other people stepping up and raising their hand and saying, I want to make this idea better. When the team was first thinking about Giving Tuesday, some of the questions they asked were, how can we redefine community for the 21st century? And what does community even mean in an age where there are no boundaries? And it all started with people thinking outside the box and pushing what's possible. So we know Giving Tuesday is big, but why? As George mentioned, we raised nonprofits in the US raised $400 million online in one day that we know about. And that's just a conservative estimate. We're not able to track offline fundraising. And this was in a year where low dollar individual giving was down. In fact, it was down every day of last year except for Giving Tuesday, which tells us something about Giving Tuesday is causing a spike in giving that's really similar to what happens to the kind of giving that happens after a natural disaster. We say Giving Tuesday is the only thing that exists that spurs that kind of giving based on something positive rather than something terrible happening. It's exactly this reason that Giving Tuesday has resonated around the world. In a world where we can't agree on much, the one thing that brings all of humanity together is the value of generosity and the joy that it can bring. People find tremendous joy in giving, and when something brings you that amount of joy, you want to do it again. So when Giving Tuesday crossed oceans, it proved that generosity isn't just an American value, it's really a universal one. Part of what Giving Tuesday has accomplished is bringing a conversation around generosity into the public square where it just wasn't there before.